Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm a guest at Telenet, the largest cable television operator in Belgium. I will be talking to Jan de Grave, the Corporate Social Responsibility Officer of Telenet, on the topic of corporate accountability reporting. Could you briefly explain what kind of company Telenet is and how it prepares itself for the Dow Jones Sustainability Rating?
Well, Telenet is a media and telecommunications company serving area is Belgium and Luxembourg, and we're noted on the Euronext Brussels Stock Exchange. And yes, the Dow Jones, the inclusion in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index rewards, let's say, our long-term commitment on sustainability and corporate social responsibility, as the Dow Jones, this assessment focuses on the company's long-term value creation and looking at 100 questions, 100 indicators going from climate change over corporate governance, over employee engagement, over customer engagement, your supply chain, stakeholder engagement, and in that sense gives a thorough overview of your let's say material impact on economic, social and environmental drivers.
What do you see as the main driver for the CSR efforts of Telenet?
Well, as you grow as a company, when you mature, also more is expected of you. So I would say it's like all of what you mentioned, really, but we picked out reputation as being the core focus area for Telenet, as it consolidates what you just mentioned: societal concerns, employee engagement, customer needs. And reputation is really looking at different drivers. It's looking at your perceived responsibility. Is this company behaving as a corporate citizen? Is this company a great place to work for? What about its corporate responsibility? Is this company showing leadership next to its products and services? So it's an interesting wrap-up and consolidation of what you mentioned, all those different drivers in society coming together in a perceived performance on your responsibility.
I understand. My next question relates to the appreciation of your CSR efforts by the capital providers, and I understand that last year the dominant shareholder of Telenet is Liberty Global. So do you actually see this as a benefit for achieving the targets you have for your CSR strategy?
Yes, of course. As you said, Liberty is, since our IPO, since 2005, our main shareholder. We call it also our parent company, so we work closely together on all different of KPIs and benchmark, and it's interesting now that they are for the second consecutive year also in the Dow Jones Sustainability North American Index. We join forces. We focus on the same efforts. We focus on the Dow Jones, and yes, access to capital is of course a main driver. And as the Dow Jones is a key reference indicators for SRI-related investors, we team up together. So that gives us access to international benchmarks, to things happening outside our footprint, let's say, of Belgium and Luxembourg.
Recently you were confronted with the new GRI 4 standards that seem to push for more detailed disclosures on the environmental, the social and the economic performance of the company. Do you view these standards as a threat?
No, I think reporting is important. Reporting is about being transparent. One of the things, for instance, we learned in our reputation research is really that being fair, open and transparent is our second most important driver next to product and services. So reporting, yes, is an important element in that. Of course, I think perhaps two remarks. I think we should take care of the instrumental gap of it's not about reporting, but it's really about embedding sustainability into the DNA of the company and looking at your purpose, your mission, vision, your material issues, and then going forward. And reporting is just, let's say, the inside and outside view of what you're actually doing. And yes, standardization is good. So GRI or GRI4 or its next development is a good development, because you want to compare yourself in your sector with others, and you want to do that on a standardized basis. So that, I think, is an interesting development, but watch out for becoming too instrumental and just focusing on the reporting side.
I want to ask a little bit more about the reporting issues and some of the things you just mentioned. When I read these CSR reports by companies, I'm struck by a few observations. First of all, it's often the good news story that companies tell, and I think it might threaten the credibility of these reports. Also, you just mentioned that comparability is an issue. It's very difficult to compare companies even within the same industry. And lastly, it's often not mentioned what the financial or the societal impact is of the CSR efforts. Do you actually recognize these criticisms that you often hear about CSR reports, and how is Telenet dealing with these issues?
Sure. I think it's a journey. I often call myself the chief propeller, as my function is to propel our leadership forward in its business journey on sustainability. And yes, all the issues you named are there and are real. That's why also we say, okay, in our reporting, materiality is key. Focus on material issues, and those issues have been told by us, by customers, by employees, by suppliers, by wider society. Focus on those material issues and set yourself targets and KPIs. And yes, of course, if you succeed in achieving your target, okay, that's good news. But I can assure you, in all those material issues, there are some you're achieving and others you're not achieving. So I think it's a much more balanced approach. But the anchor point should be what is looking at the long term and looking at your stakeholders. What are your material issues, and how are you performing on that? And yes, putting a financial value to that is extremely difficult. There are some extremely interesting examples not in our business, but for instance, Puma has done tremendous work in that direction. And of course, we also want to do the same, but it's, I think, a journey where you take step by step. You start by your material issues, and then you try adding the financial value to that. But of course, standardization, and we're coming back to perhaps GRI, and standardization is really key.